Hello! Welcome back to English class. In this new lesson, I'm going to talk about a different topic. I'm going to describe and you're going to learn how to use conditional sentences. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome back to English class. What is the objective of this lesson? What are you going to learn? How to identify and how to use correctly the first and the second condition. In English, there are four different types of conditional sentences. We have zero conditional, first, second, and third conditional. But for this class, you're going to learn and you're going to use first conditional and second conditional only. What are conditional sentences made of? What are the components of conditional sentences? Conditional sentences are made of two clauses. The first clause of a conditional sentence is the condition. What is the condition? The condition is the clause that starts with the word if. You will know which one is the condition of a sentence because it will have the word if at the beginning. And the second clause of conditional sentences is the result, is the clause that is going to include the result. So, conditional sentences are made up of a condition that starts with if and a result. And in the case of conditional sentence, you can swap them. You can change the position of the condition and the result. Sometimes you can have the result at the beginning and the condition at the end, or you can have the condition at the beginning and the result at the end. Good. Let me show you what are the different types of conditional sentences. I told you at the beginning that in English there are four types of conditional sentences. We have zero conditional, first conditional, second conditional, and third conditional. But I'm not going to explain third conditional here. We're just going to focus on the differences of the zero conditional, the first conditional, and the second conditional. What do we use the zero conditional for? We use the zero conditional for general truths and habits. That's what we use the present simple to express it. Remember that I told you that conditional sentences have two clauses. The if clause, which is the condition, and the result clause. You have already learned in different courses that the zero conditional is the conditional we use for general truths and habits. That's why we express the condition with present simple, and the result we also express it with present simple. Let us go with the first conditional. What do we use the first conditional for? We use the first conditional for possible or for likely events in the future. The condition is expressed with present simple and the result we express it with will and the infinitive of the verb. That is the structure, the grammar structure of the first conditional. And which one is the grammar structure of the first conditional? What do we use the second conditional for? We use the second conditional to express actions or to talk about events in the future that are impossible or unlikely. And we use the condition, we express the condition with the past simple, and the result is expressed with would plus infinitive. Let's see some examples of the differences between zero conditional, first conditional, and second conditional. The zero conditional is used to express general truths and habits. For example, if you add 2 and 2, you get 4. Well, that is a general truth. It's something that is real, it happens. So we express the condition with this present simple, and the result we also express it with the present simple, that is the zero condition. Now let's see an example of the first conditional. If it rains tomorrow, the traffic will be horrible. We use the first conditional to talk about possible or likely events in the future. Will it rain? Is it possible that it rains, for example, in Bogota? Yes, it's very much likely. It's very much possible that it rains, so I know that if it rains in Bogota, the traffic will be horrible. The condition is likely, so the result is also likely. That's why we use the present simple to express the condition, and we use will to express the result. Now let's see a sentence in the second conditional. If I won the lottery, I would buy an original Picasso. So, is it possible? Is it possible? Is it likely that you win the lottery? Not really. The possibility of winning the lottery is very, 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 very small. It's almost impossible that someone you know or that you win the lottery. So, in this case, we're talking about an event in the future which is almost impossible or unlikely. So, we use, because the condition is winning the lottery, we use the past simple in the condition, and to express the result of the condition, we use would. What is the difference between the zero conditional and the first conditional and the second conditional? Well, the zero conditional is actually real. We're talking about a general truth. We're talking about something that is real, something that happens. And the first conditional is also real. The condition is possible, so the result is possible. So we're talking about a real conditional. But in the case of the second conditional, we're talking about an unreal conditional. Why? Because the condition we're talking about, for example, in the case of winning the lottery, we're talking about something unlikely, something that is almost impossible and that is not going to happen. So, if the condition is unreal, the result is also going to be unreal, is going to be unlikely. Will I win the lottery? Probably not. Very much, probably not. Will I buy an original Picasso? Not really. It's almost impossible, it's very unlikely that you either won the lottery or the two, you buy an original Picasso. So remember the differences between the first conditional and the second conditional. The first conditional is real, and we use the present simple to express the condition and will to express the result. And the second conditional is unreal, and we use the past simple to express the condition, and we use would to express the result. For this class and for the following hours of class, we're going to focus on the first conditional and the second conditional. Let's talk a little bit more about the first conditional and let's see some examples. So, first conditional, it's real and it's used to talk about things that might happen in the future. We use the first conditional to talk about events that might happen in the future. We can't know what will happen in the future, but the first conditional describes events or actions or things that are possible or that are likely to happen. If it rains, I won't go to the park. Is it possible that it rains? Is it likely that it rains? Yes, it's absolutely possible that it rains. That is the condition because it starts with if, and the result is that if it rains, I won't go to the park. If I study, I'll get a good grade in the exam. The condition is if I study, and the result is that I'll get a good grade in the exam. The condition if I study is expressed in present simple, and the result is expressed with will. If I have enough money, I'll buy some new shoes. Is it possible? Is it likely that you get money? Yes, maybe you get a job. Maybe you will talk to your parents, or maybe I will talk to my parents and I will ask them for money. Maybe somebody I know will give me money. So it's possible that I get money. So if I have money, I will buy some new shoes. If I practice every day, I'll become good at tennis. So is it possible? Is it likely that I practice every day? Yes, because I have a tennis racket and because there is a tennis court next to my house. So I can go every day and practice. And if I practice, I'll become good at tennis. The condition, if I practice, is expressed in simple present, and the result we express it with will. She'll be late if the train is delayed. Which one is the condition in this sentence? The condition is if the train is delayed. Delayed is a synonym for late. So, if the train is late, she'll be late. If the train is delayed, she'll be late. The condition, if the train is delayed, is expressed in simple present, and the result is expressed with will. She'll miss the bus if she doesn't leave soon. Which one is the condition in this sentence? If she doesn't leave soon. And which one is the result? She'll miss the bus. The condition is expressed in present simple, and the result is expressed in future with will. It's a very possible action in the future. It's very likely that if she doesn't leave soon, she'll be late. It's something that would possibly happen. And the last one is if I see her, I will tell her. If I see her, I will tell her. Will I see her? Yes, it's possible that I see her. So that's why I write the condition in present simple. And the result, which is also possible, I write it with will. Now, let's talk a little bit about the second conditional. The second conditional is one of the unreal conditionals. So first, we can use it to talk about things in the future that are probably not going to be true. Maybe I'm dreaming, possibly I'm fantasizing. For example, if I won the lottery, I would buy a big house. I probably won't win the lottery. There is a very small chance that you win the lottery, so it's actually unreal. You're not going to win the lottery, so it's not likely, and we use the second conditional. If I won the lottery, I would buy a big house. But I will not win the lottery, and so I will not buy a big house. Let's go with the second example. If I met the Queen of England, I would say hello. But there is a very small chance also that you meet the Queen of England. You have to be very, very, very important, or you have to do something very valuable for the Queen to want to get to know you. So that's why we use the second conditional, because it's very unlikely that you meet the Queen. So I say, if I met the Queen of England, I would say hello. The condition, which is unlikely, is written with the simple past, and the result is written with would and the infinitive of the verb. If I met the Queen of England, I would say hello, but this is unlikely. It's very much unlikely that you meet the Queen. She would travel around the world if she were rich. But is she rich? Is the person we're talking about rich? Not really. That person is not rich. And it's very unlikely that that person becomes rich. I don't know why. Maybe because of the conditions of her life, or the person she is, or because of this dirty capitalist world. It's very difficult for her to become rich. So she's not going to travel around the world. The condition, if she were rich, it's unreal. So the result is also unreal. The condition is expressed, is written in past simple, and the result is written with would and the infinitive of the verb. Let's go with the last example. She wouldn't fail the exam if she studied. Which one is the condition? If she studied. But we have something here telling us that she never studies. She is a very bad student as well. So she's going to fail the exam. If she studied, she wouldn't fail the exam. But we know that she doesn't study, so the condition is unreal, and the result is also unreal, so we express it with would plus the infinitive of the verb. The second use of the second conditional is that we can use it to talk about something in the present which is impossible because it's not true. We're also talking about events, or we're talking about conditions that are unreal because are unlikely or impossible. For example, if I had his number, I would call him. But I don't have his number now, so it's impossible for me to call him. Do I have his number? No. Will I call him? No. The condition is unreal, and also the result is unreal. Let's go with the next example. If I were you, I wouldn't go out with that man. Am I you? It's impossible for me to be you, so the condition is unreal, and the result is unreal too. So those are the conditions, those are the uses of the second conditional. Now, I want you to take a look. Two sentences we have here. She would travel all over the world if she were rich. What is strange? What is weird about this sentence? What is something that is not okay with this sentence? And now let's look at this one. If I were you, I wouldn't go out with that man. What is strange about this sentence? What do you think is sort of not correct with that sentence? Well, these two sentences have something in common. The first one is that in the condition we have, if she were rich. In the condition we have verb to be, and here, if I were you. In the condition we also have verb to be, but what happens with those sentences? In the second conditional sentences, when the condition includes verb to be, we must always use were. That's why here we say if she were rich, and in this sentence we say if I were you. But this is only for the second conditional. In sentences, in second conditional, when the condition includes verb to be, we must always use were. We don't say if she was, and we don't say if I was. We always use were in conditional sentences when the condition includes verb to be. Now, let's see some examples. What is happening in the picture? It's raining in the picture. You can see a window and the water is coming down, the rain's coming down the window, like exactly is happening now in Bogota. So is it likely or is it unlikely that it rains in Bogota? All of you have lived in Bogota, so you can tell me if it's likely or unlikely that it rains in Bogota. Well, it's very much likely. It's likely, it's possible that it rains. So let's make some sentences using the first condition. Remember that if the condition or the action is likely, it's probable, if it might happen, so we use the first conditional. So let's make a sentence with the first conditional in which the rain is the condition. If it rains, I won't go jogging. In this case, the rain is the condition. If it rains, I won't go jogging. Is it possible that it rains? Yes. It's also possible, it's also likely, that if it rains, I won't go jogging. Now, let me show you a sentence in which the rain is the result. If I sing, it will rain. I'm a terrible singer. Nobody likes the way I sing, so I know that if I sing, it will rain. In this case, the result is the rain. And because we're using the first conditional, because we know that the condition is real, because we know that the condition is likely, we use the simple present in the condition and we use will or will not in the result. In these two sentences, let me show you another example. Who are in the picture? Who are the people in the picture? It's a very excited lady. It's a woman who is meeting the queen. And she says, oh, I'm meeting the queen. In your case, is it likely or is it unlikely that you meet the queen? Well, I think, let me disappoint you. I think that it's very unlikely. It's not very easy to meet the queen, so maybe none of us are going to die having met the queen. So is it we use first conditional or second conditional? In this case, we use second conditional. Let me show you an example of a sentence in which meeting the queen is the condition. If I met the queen, I would ask her to dance. I would say, "Hello, queen. Would you like to do some salsa with me?" And I don't know what she'd say. Probably she wouldn't be very happy. But remember, because we are using the second conditional, the condition has the verb in the past simple and the result with would and the infinitive of the verb. If I met the queen, I would ask her to dance. But it's very unlikely that I meet the queen, so I have to use the second conditional. Let me now show you an example of a sentence in which meeting the queen is the result. If I won a Nobel Prize, I would meet the queen. Nobel Prize winners get special invitations to get to meet Queen Elizabeth. So, if I won the Nobel Prize, I would meet the queen. In this case, the condition is if I won a Nobel Prize. But will we win the Nobel Prize? Is there a Nobel Prize for English teacher? Not really. But if I won the Nobel Prize, which is unlikely, I would meet the queen. These two sentences are sentences in the second conditional. So, in the condition clause, we use the simple past. And in the result, we use would and the verb in infinitive. Let me show you. Let's see another example. What's happening in the picture? Bum, bum, ba, bum, 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 ba, bum. These are two people who love each other so much. And they're saying I do, that means that they are getting married. Is it likely or is it unlikely that you, my wonderful, handsome and beautiful students, get married? Yes, I think many of you will get married because many of you still believe in love. So we're going to make sentences in the first conditional. Let me show you an example first in which getting married is the condition. Let's talk about my brother. If my brother gets married, he will buy a new house because maybe he needs a bigger house to start a family. So if my brother gets married, he will buy a new house. It's likely. For my brother, he's very handsome, he's very attractive, he's a very nice person, and he gets many women. So if my brother gets married, he will buy a house. It's something that would possibly happen. And in your cases as well, it might happen because you're very nice people. You're very good-looking students who will very probably get married. Now, let's see another example of a sentence in which getting married is the result. If my brother finds the right girlfriend, he will get married. The condition in this sentence is if my brother finds the right girlfriend, and because it is likely, because it is possible that he finds the right girlfriend, he will get married. We write the condition, gets married, in the simple present, and in this case too, and the result are expressed in future with will. The second clause, the clause of the result, has will and the infinitive of it. Let's see another example. This is becoming interesting. What's happening in the picture? Well, we have a musician. We have a rock star. I'm a rock star. So what do you think? Is it likely or is it unlikely that we or you become rock stars? What do you have to do to become a rock star? Maybe you have to be in a band. Maybe you have to go and live in Hollywood. Maybe you have to do a recording, be on the radio, open a YouTube channel. I don't know. There are many things that you could do to become a rock star. But let's see an example. Well, but I don't think it's very easy to become rock stars. I would say that it's unlikely. It's not really that possible that you become rock stars. So let's make sentences in the second conditional, because it's not really likely that you or me or somebody we know becomes a rock star. So let's see examples of a sentence in the second conditional in which be a rock star is the condition. If you were a rock star, you would make impressive music videos. That's what rock stars do. They make impressive music videos. If we became rock stars, if we did something so great, so impressive, if our music were so nice and people loved it so much, we would have to make impressive and very expensive music videos. But I don't think that's going to happen. Now, let's see a sentence using the second conditional in which be the rock star is the result. If you were in a very famous band, you would be a rock star. So the condition is, if you were in a very famous band, you would be a rock star. The condition is, if you were in a very famous band. But are we in a famous band? Do you think that's likely to happen? Not really, it's not going to happen. So we use the second conditional, and the result is that you would be a rock star. We express the result with would and the infinitive. And remember, these two cases are sentences in the second conditional that include verb to be in the condition, and that is why we use were in the condition. Let's go to another example. Who's this guy in the picture? Do you remember that guy in the picture? Well, he is Adam Levine. He's the lead singer of rock band Maroon 5. Many people like him. Many people think he's very attractive and sexy. So maybe you were walking down the street in Bogota and you see Adam Levine and he comes to you and says, "Hi, do you speak English? Is it likely or is it unlikely?" Well, he doesn't actually come to Bogota a lot. And now with the pandemic and everything, I don't think he's going to come to Bogota. So we'd say it's unlikely. So let's make sentences in which meeting Adam Levine is the condition. If I met Adam Levine, I would ask him to sing with me, and then it would rain, of course, because I'm not a good singer, but he's a very good singer. He's very talented and all, with the tattoos and everything. So, but if I met him, I would say, "Adam, please sing with me." And maybe he'd say yes, maybe he'd say no. I know that he is a very generous person, so probably he would do it. But if I met Adam Levine, I would ask him to sing with me. Remember, the condition, because it's an unlikely condition, we use past simple. And the result, we use would and the infinitive of the verb. Now, let's see a sentence in which meeting Adam Levine is the result. If I were a rock star, I would meet Adam Levine. But we've talked about it before. Becoming a rock star is very difficult. Becoming a rock star is almost impossible. Not everybody who has a band or plays an instrument becomes a rock star. So this is unlikely. And because it's unlikely, we use the condition in past simple. And the result, we use would plus the verb in infinitive. Let's go with another example. Ooh, money, 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 money. I found a lot of money in the street. Is it likely to happen or is it unlikely to happen? Do you think that that will possibly happen? That you're walking down the street and you find like $1,000? It's unlikely. It's not something that actually happens. So we're gonna make sentences. I'm gonna give you sentences, examples of sentences in the second conditional because this is unlikely. This is very unlikely. I'm gonna give you one first example in which the sentence found the money or find money is the condition. If I found a lot of money on the street, I would buy a new computer. Remember, the condition, if I found, it's unlikely, so we use the simple past. And the result, because it's unlikely as well, we express it with would and the infinitive of the verb. Now let's see another example in which finding the money is the result. If I were really lucky, I would find a lot of money on the street. But I don't think nobody is that lucky. There are people who find money, but it's a very limited number of people. Not everybody is lucky to become a rock star, to meet the Queen of England, to talk to Adam Levine, and to find a lot of money. Some people are very lucky. If I were that lucky, I would find a lot of money and I would do a lot of things, but I'm a regular person and I'm pretty sure that you are too. Let's see another example. What happened here? I lost my wallet. Is it likely or is it unlikely that you lose your wallet? It's very likely. It's the most popular lost object in the world. So let's see an example of a sentence in which losing your wallet is the condition. If Susan, let's use the example of a woman, Susan. If Susan loses her wallet, she will have to get a new debit card and a new ID. This is very likely to happen, and that's why we use the condition in present simple present and the result with will and the verb and infinitive. If Susan loses her wallet, she will have to get a new debit card and a new ID. And now let's see an example of a sentence in which losing your wallet is the result. If Susan, well, we know Susan is like a party girl. She likes drinking and going to clubs, but every time she gets drunk, she loses her wallet. It's a likely condition. It's a likely event in the future, so if the result is also possible. If she gets drunk, she will lose her wallet. That's going to happen because she likes drinking fire water and she likes drinking whiskey and beer and all that. So if she gets drunk, she will lose her wallet. And now, the last example of the day. I got a 5 in the English exam. Is it likely or is it unlikely? Well, before, when we were in university, it was very difficult to get 5 in the exams. But now with the whole online thing, with the virtuality, with studying at home, with all the help that you get from the internet, it's very likely. But I'm going to say that it's still very unlikely that you get a 5 in the English exam. So let's make sentences in the second conditional. Let's say that it's unlikely. It's still very difficult to get 5 in English exams. So let's see one sentence in which getting a 5 in the exam is the condition. If I got a 5 in the exam, I would ask the teacher for more homework. Yes, because you're so studious and you're so dedicated that you got a 5 in the exam, and instead of going drinking and going partying with your friends, what you do is you talk to the teacher and you say, teacher, give me more homework because I want to learn more. That is a possibility. But it's unlikely because students are not like that. So if students were different, If we as students were different, we would ask the teacher for more homework. It's very unlikely that that happens too. It's very unlikely that you get a 5, and it's also very unlikely that you ask the teacher for more homework. And now let's see an example of a sentence in which getting a 5 in the exam is the result. If I studied really hard, I would get a 5 in the exam. But sometimes we're not that good, we're not that studious, we're not that dedicated, so we don't get 5 in exams. And sometimes, subjects are very difficult. Sometimes it's very difficult to get 5 in the exams, so it's unlikely that you get 5s. And sometimes there are students who don't like to study, who like to watch TV and play video games, but they don't study. So for them, it is unlikely to get 5s in the exams. So this is the final example that we have. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you have enjoyed the example. And I hope that now you can identify the differences between the first conditional and the second conditional. Let me know if you have questions. Let me know any of your comments, and see you in class.